So good evening, members of council and members of the public and staff. The brief slide presentation that I'm going to do provides an overview of the accomplishments achieved based on the 1992 Clarington Waterfront Strategy. Some remarkable achievements have been realized over the past 30 years and have made a significant contribution to ensuring the preservation of the waterfront for the public, the protection of the natural and cultural values, and the land use compatibility. Staff are also requesting council approve the recommended consultant for RFP 2022-1 so that we can reset the vision for the next 30 years with a renewed vision, and strategy. The municipality will be well positioned to maximize new opportunities to sustainably enhance Clarington's waterfront and create unique urban waterfront destinations. I'm hoping my slides are moving forward.
Ms. Langmaid, your slides are not moving forward.
Well, that is a problem, isn't it? Now they are.
Actually, no.
No?
Yes.
Okay. The Clarington waterfront is 34.5 kilometers in length from Darlington Provincial Park at the town line with Oshawa in the west to the Port Granby Bluffs in the east at the town line with Port Hope. In 1992, the public had access to only 3% of Clarington's shoreline. Through acquisitions that have occurred over the last 30 years, the public now have access to approximately 30% of the nearshore area and 16% at the shoreline. The ability of the public to get to the water's edge and dip their toes into Lake Ontario has greatly increased. Although where the lakefront consists of bluff, we don't recommend traversing them. Many of the acquisitions that have occurred have supported the development of the waterfront trail. While significant improvements have been made, the waterfront trail implementation and our continued goal of shifting it off-road and onto improved facilities continues to be a work in progress. The 1992 waterfront strategy was based on the objectives espoused by the Granby Commission on the waterfront. The objectives of the Lake Ontario waterfront were that it should be open, accessible, usable, diverse, affordable, and attractive. For Clarington, the waterfront strategy was a background document for the 1996 official plan. The 1996 plan was the first official plan for Clarington. It brought together the previous official plans that had existed for the urban areas and townships and set local planning policy going beyond the generalized direction that the Durham Region official plan provided. Clarington's 1996 official plan was a recipient of provincial and national recognition for its sustainable development policies and balancing of the natural heritage protection policies with resource development and agricultural objectives. In 1992, the majority of the ownership of the study area was private and privately owned by mostly agricultural and industrial owners. At the time, the municipality owned lands, as I said before, was only 3% of the area. Today, that has increased. The municipality owns about 13%. There's additional lands that we're hoping to add in the near future, and then there's another 3% that are owned by other public agencies. In addition to our lands, there are major publicly accessible holdings owned by the provincial government, Ontario Power Generation, Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority, the federal government, and Hydro One. The municipality has worked in partnership with these public agencies to secure access through their lands for the waterfront trail. linking the green spaces together for public benefit. In the 1992 study, area was everything south of the 401 in Clarington. It was about 9% of Clarington's total area. We're suggesting that the study area be reduced by dropping it down from the 401 to concession 1 in the former township of the Clark area. So the red line that just popped onto the screen. This reduces the area to about 7.8% of Clarington, and it focuses it closer to the waterfront. The study area had 14 sub-areas, each having its own characteristics and recommendations. Some areas have remained relatively unchanged, while others have experienced significant change based on the recommendations contained in that 1992 study. For the pre-bid meeting, I worked my way across the waterfront west to east, outlining the major changes that have occurred in each of the sub-areas. The pre-bid meeting was recorded, and you can access it through the share file that I provided to you. Tonight, I want to focus on the Bowmanville and Newcastle waterfronts, as they have seen the most change over the last 30 years and are the two areas that we have asked the consultant to put additional focus on. For the Bowmanville, while the Conservation Authority owned the Bowmanville Marsh, the remainder of the lands were privately held back in 1992. At the time, St. Mary's had an aggregate extraction license for the entire west side marsh area. Through a facilitated process, the municipality reached principles of understanding with St. Mary's that saw the transfer of the southern third of the marsh and the uplands area to the Conservation Authority, along with funds for its enhancement and monitoring. This also allowed for the realignment of West Side Creek and the shifting of the waterfront trail off-road through the hydro corridor. Previously, it was routed up Waverly, now Bowmanville Avenue, along Baseline, and then down Liberty to Port Darlington. The municipality acquired the lands in the East Beach area for the park development between 1998 and 2006. The Port Darlington Harbor Company lands on the West Beach were expropriated in 2010. The municipality has yet to determine the future of the village commercial, which is the purple area just north of, East Beach Road. That land has already been declared surplus by the municipality, but we have not put it on the general market as of yet. Also, the Port Darlington Harbor Company lands on the east side of Bowmanville Creek and the municipality-owned lands could be better rationalized. So Port Darlington owns the blue and we own the purple. Can I get rid of that? This will be part of the consultant's assignment and will include recommendations for the underutilized municipal park lands that are along Port Darlington Road. In Newcastle, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry owns the Wilmot Creek and Marsh, and the former fish hatchery lands are all Crown lands. That's the dark green on the screen. As a result of the 1992 waterfront study and in recognition of the environmental significance and recreational values of Wilmot Creek and Lake Ontario waterfront, the municipality acquired the land surrounding the marsh in 1996, establishing the Sam Wilmot Nature Area, so the light green lands that are around the dark green lands. The Port of Newcastle secondary plan had not been finalized in 1992. It was finalized later in the 1990s. However, there was already agreement with the developer that the waterfront trail would run along the lake, which is the red dotted line along the lake, and then turn north and run north adjacent to Graham Creek. The port of Newcastle shifted from a commercial port over to a recreational marina in the 1970s, which is when the municipal boat launch was built. The municipality took possession of the piers in Newcastle from the federal government in 1999. All of the green lands along the lake east of Toronto Road have been acquired through dedication, save and except for the Bondhead properties, which were acquired in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The final land transfers of the land development in the port of Newcastle have just recently come to the municipality, and it is proposed that they will be addressed as part of the concept plan to be prepared for this area. So that's the area between the water or pollution control plant over to the creek and up towards the marina. Port Granby is another important waterfront space outside of Clarington's urban areas that has seen significant change over the last 30 years. Council approved the Ecology First concept for the end use of the Port Granby lands in 2010. In 2015, a proposal was endorsed by Council, the Municipality of Port Hope, and Southeast Clarington Ratepayers Association, and a number of stewardship groups. It was submitted to the federal government in the hopes that the surplus lands around the newly constructed low-level radioactive waste facility and the former facility would be turned over to the respective municipalities for restoration and enhancement as a nature reserve. They are nearing completion of the waste project. As the mayor commented earlier this evening, we were actually at the ceremony on Friday. What is left to be completed at this time is the landscaping and the grading. The concept plan for the nature reserve includes stewardship and management plan, costing and phasing, and all of that will be folded into the waterfront strategy and updated. Council has authorized the development of a more refined concept per the Courtice waterfront from the secondary plan consultant Urban Strategies with the assistance of MBTW. The more refined concept plan will be presented in June. Again, the concept plan, costing and phasing will be folded into the overall waterfront strategy, allowing Council to determine priorities. As part of the overall waterfront strategy, the consulting team will also be carrying out a comprehensive economic and market assessment of all of the proposed concepts across the entire waterfront. To address future steps, a detailed implementation plan outlining resources required and sequencing will be prepared. The implementation steps will identify the range of strategies and options together with timing and associated costs, potential funding sources, as well as a project priorities based on input obtained from the engagement process will be part of the final report. There is also a robust public engagement process proposed, and this input process will include meetings with councillors. The final terms of reference for the project will be agreed to with the consultant. If there are additional items council would like us to include in the terms of reference, we can inform the consultant as part of the startup meeting, and any additional associated funding required will be incorporated into the 2023 budget request. The recommendation from staff is to proceed with the awarding of the contract as set out in the proposal call and recommended in FSD 02022. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.